Dangal greetings, Sir Janus. I am Gio Perey from 2ITC, and I am the leader of Group 4. Today, I will discuss the features of our zoo inventory project. Our project features include adding animal to the inventory, displaying all of the animals in the inventory in a tabular form, searching animal by its name, counting animal by specific species, and displaying animals by their respective enclosure. So each feature has its own method, which will be discussed later on by my members. But first, let me explain to you our variables. First, we have here a constant named max animals, which is set to 50 because according to the system requirements, the inventory must be able to handle 50 animals at a time. Next, we have here an arrays for storing animal details such as animal names, animal species, animal ages, and animal enclosure numbers. We also have here an instance of a scanner class, which will be used to accept user input later on. Also, we have a variable for animal count, which is initially set to 0. This variable will be used to keep track of how many animals are currently stored in the inventory. So, all of the variables is declared as static so that it can be accessed and modified inside the methods later on. That's all for my part, and my members will discuss the methods of our project. Thank you.
Dangal greetings, Sir Janus. I am RENZO Tolentino from Group 2, and I will explain the error handling part of our group project. So starting with this first method, isValidInt. This method will check for valid integer input and will display appropriate error messages. This method will need a string data type or variable called textCount, and it will return an integer if the user input is correct. starting with this part, this will prompt the user what to enter. And this try catch block will determine if the input is correct or is it valid. Starting with this try block, the input is stored in a variable called input. And if the input of the user is incorrect or it is a string or other data type, it will throw an error and will be catched on this catch block. This catch block is looking for an exception called input mismatch exception. So if the error is thrown in this catch block, the error message will be from to the user and will return the whole method as a recursion. And it will just loop the whole method over and over again if the user inputs string or other data type instead of int. So going to the next error handling method called isValidString. This method will check for valid string input and it will display appropriate error messages. This method needs a string variable called input and it will return a boolean. So going to the first part of this method, which is this if block, this block will check if the input is empty, meaning if the user just hit enter or the user enters nothing. It will display an error message and it will return false. So going to the second part of this method, which is the strike catch block, this part will parse the string input into integer and check if it is a valid string. So this integer that parsing will be the one who will parse the input of the user into an integer. If it is parsed into an int, it will return an error, meaning that the data that the user entered is an integer. And if it is not parsed, it will throw an error that will be catched here in the catch block with the number format exception. And it will return true because the user entered a string data type.
Hi, my name is NATHANIEL Aguhob, and I'll be explaining the isInventoryEmpty method. So what does it do? The method checks if the zoo inventory is empty. For example, if the animal count is equals to 0, or there has been no animal added in the inventory, then the return type will be true and it will display a appropriate message. The print message is there's no animal in the zoo inventory yet, and select option 1 to add the first animal. But if the animal count is 1 or more, then the return type will be false, and it will display the animal that is stored in the inventory. That's all.
So, hello, Sir Janus. This is my part. I'm John Paul Gabriel G. Panaligan. Dangal greetings po. So, okay, display menu. Display menu is a method that shows choices to the user. It's just prints text using system.out_print line. So each line is one option. First is add one new animal. Second is view all animal. Third, search animal by name. Fourth, count animals by species. Or 5, displays animal in specific enclosure. And 6 is exit. This method only displays the menu. It doesn't do actions yet. It just tells the user what they can pick.
Greetings everyone. I am John Michael Atchico from 2ITC. In my part, the main method, we create a program that will call the other methods in the selection through the user inputs by adding, displaying, counting, searching, or exiting the program. In the main method, we declare an integer variable named choice to later on the system will know what the user wants to do in the program. Then, the system will print the introductory part of the program, which is the title of the project, Welcome to Zoo Management System. After that, the program will proceed to the conditional statement do while loop for the system to execute the user input to the program. Inside the do statement, there's the displayMenu method that will allow user to carry out multiple actions in the program. Afterwards, the user will be asked to enter what they want to perform inside the code. If the user accidentally choose not an integer variable, it will call the isValidInteger method that will automatically says error statements and calls again the displayMenu method. After the user inputs the integer variable, it will proceed to the switch statements that operate different methods. The first one is the adding of animal method. It will allow the user to add animals' names, species, age, and enclosure number in the program. The second one is displaying all the animals method, which makes the system display all the animals information to the inventory. The third one is the search animal by name method, which allows user to search animal's name in the program. The fourth is counting the animals by species method, which centers the numbers count of species in the list. The fifth one is the display animals by enclosure method through their enclosure number. And then the last one is the exit statement, which displays the exiting statement of the program. However, if the user inputs lower or higher than the expected number, it will display an error statement to the user to enter the right integer numbers to perform actions in the program. In addition, we add space after the methods are used and perform the actions they need so that the code has a better readability on the users. Last but not the least, if the user inputs number 6 to the choice, it will proceed to the exit program. Otherwise, it will always repeat the first action of the main method.
Greetings, Sir Janus. My name is James DRANZER T. Peralta, and I'm here to present my part in our zoo term project, which is Zoo Inventory System in Java. And for my part is adding animal. We have a first condition here that will check if the animal count is greater than or equal to max animals, which is the max animals that the system can hold is 50 animals. If the animal count is 50 and the user tries to add one animal, it will equal to 51, and it will print this two message that will stop the user from adding any animal. So if the animal count is less than or equal to max animals, it will let the user add their desired animal in the system. For the first part here, we have the animal name, animal species, animal age, and for the last part is the enclosure. So the purpose of that trim here is to remove any spaces at the start and the end of the user input. So we can search them here in our menu even if the user puts space in the start or end. And for the last part here, we have a condition that will check if the enclosure number is valid. If it's 0 to 4 or less than to 0 or greater than 4, it will print a error message that the enclosure number should be 0 and 4. And if the if the enclosure number that the user entered is valid, it will store all the information that the user input in the system. And the animal count, which is currently one, because I already added a lion here, it will increment. So instead of 0, it will going to be 1. And for the trim part here, search animal. So I already inputted a lion here, and I will show you how that trim part works. Okay, search animal by name. So I'll put one space and lion and space at the end. It will still show the full details of the animal that was meant to be found by that was wanted to be found by the user. That's all. Thank you, Sir Janus.
Hi, greetings. My name is JILLIAN as Tabanganay from 2ITC, and I will explain my part, which is display all animals in the inventory. So in this method, we use public static void display all animals to create a function that shows all the animal in the zoo inventory. So first, it prints a title line so the user knows that this part is about the zoo records. Then the code check if is inventory empty. This condition is used to see if the inventory has no animals, and if it's empty, the method stops immediately because there is nothing to display. So after that, that separator line is printed and the headers, name, species, age, and closure number. This makes the output look like a table and help the user understand the columns and the data. So next comes for the for loop. The for loop is going through the array to check and get the value stored from the user. Each time it runs, it takes the information that the user entered. Inside the loop, the code uses print with the string formatting. This makes the display neat and aligned. Each column, like the name, species, age, and enclosure number, is given fixed spaces so the values are arranged like a proper table instead of looking messy. After the for loop ends, another separator line is printed to close the table. Then the total number of animals in the zoo is displayed so the user knows how many records are shown. So that's all. Thank you.
So, greetings. I am Segundo, and this part is the search animal by name method. First, I'm gonna explain the dot trim and dot equals ignore case method. First is the dot trim method. It is used to remove any leading and trailing white space from a string. So, for example, you're typing and accidentally hit the space bar before or after typing a name. For example, you're typing space pink space. So the row input includes extra spaces. Without that trim, your search would look for the exact string space pink space, which won't match the stored name pink. By using that trim, the string becomes pink, allowing for a successful match. This simple step prevents common user input errors and improves the overall user experience. Next is the that equals ignore case. It compares two strings for equality without considering case differences. For example, if the animal name is stored as Max with capital M and the user searches for Max with lowercase m, a standard comparison. That equals would fail because the cases are different. However, that equals ignore case treat max with capital M and max with lowercase m as the same, ensuring the search is successful regardless of whether the user types uppercase or lowercase letters. This makes the search function and more flexible. So overall, um, this code searches for animal within an inventory by name. It first checks if the inventory is empty. If not, it prompts the user to enter a name to search for. The code then iterates through an array of animal names and um, comparing each one to the user's input, ignoring case. If a match is found, it prints the full details of that animal and then exits the loop. But if the loop completes without finding a match, a message rather is displayed indicating that the animal was not found. So that's all. Thank you.
Dangal greetings, I am JAMELLE Cassandra A. Rustria and I will be presenting the Count Animals by Species method of our zoo management system. This method counts how many animals belong to a specific species entered by the user. First, we will be able to see here in our code the if statement that calls the isInventoryEmpty method to check if the inventory is empty. After checking, the program prompts the user to enter the species they want to count. The input is stored in the variable search species, and we use the .trim method to remove any unnecessary spaces before or after the input. This helps avoid errors when matching the user's input with the species stored in our array. After that, we declare a counter variable called count and initialized with a value of 0. This will be used to keep track of how many animals match the user's input. Then we move to the for loop that iterates from index 0 up to the total number of animals in the inventory. Inside the loop, the condition checks if the value of animal species is equal to search species using the .equals ignore case method. This method is important because it allows us to compare two strings while ignoring differences in letter case. For example, dog that are all lowercase and dog that are all uppercase will still be recognized as the same species. Now, if a match is found, the count variable is incremented by 1. Once the loop is finished, we now check the result of the count. If the value of count is greater than 0, the program prints how many animals belong to that species. Otherwise, if no match were found, the program displays a message that no animals of that species exist in the inventory. Finally, a line is printed to mark the end of the method's output for better readability.
Dangal greetings, Sir Janus. I am AXEL Remojo, and for our project, I am tasked to do the display animals by enclosure method. This method's purpose is to let the user see all the animals that are inside a specific enclosure, and this method starts with printing a header that will help the user to know what will be the function of this method, and after that it will proceed to this block of code. This block of code checks if the inventory is empty by calling this method. If there are no animals stored in the system, it will immediately stop, and it will tell the user that there are no animals in the zoo or in the inventory, and otherwise it will proceed to this block of code. This block of code is responsible for prompting the user to enter a enclosure number. It uses this method. This method ensures that the user will enter a valid number, and the program only accepts enclosure numbers between numbers 0 and 4, and if the user entered a number that is outside that range, it will print a error message, and it will ask again the user to enter a number between 0 and 4, and then once a valid number is entered, the method will proceed to this block of code, and this block of code will count how many animals are in that enclosure, and the count will be stored in this variable. After counting how many animals are in the enclosure, it will check if there are any animals before displaying the table. So if the animals in the enclosure is equals to 0, it will print this message that tells the user that there are no animals found in enclosure with the specific enclosure number. But if there are animals, it will then proceed to this block of code, and then this block of code is responsible for printing the table of the animals that are in the enclosure. It will print the name of the animal and the species along with the age of the animal. So this for loop is responsible for traversing through all the arrays where we stored the informations of the animals in the specific enclosure, and we also used string formatting to help us print the information in a table, and then after that it will also print the total numbers of the animals in that specific enclosure, and then it will also print this, so that it will mark as the end of the function of the method. So to show you how it works, let's run the code. So to show you the output of this method, first let's try to select the display animals in a specific enclosure without animals inside our inventory system. So let's select number 5, and this is the output. So it will print this message that tells the user that there's no animal in the zoo inventory yet, and then it will also tell the user to select the option 1 to add the animal, and then next. Now let's try what will be the output of this method if there are animals that is stored in the inventory system. So now let's select number 5, and then let's select a enclosure number to access, and then this will gonna be the output if there are animals inside the zoo inventory system. So it first print this header to help the user know what is this method is all about, and then it also prints the enclosure number of the selected enclosure, and then it prints the table. This table has the name of the animals, the species, and the age. So basically this table consists of the information of the animals inside that specific enclosure, and then it also prints the total animals inside that enclosure, which is there are 3 animals inside that enclosure, and that's all. That's the main function of our display animals in specific enclosure method. And thank you for listening, and the other methods will be explained by my group mates. That's all. Thank you for listening.